In 1967, the most dangerous man in Hong Kong was brought to his knees by an elderly beggar who never threw a single punch. This is the story that Hollywood never told you. The fight that changed everything we thought we knew about martial arts. The moment Bruce Lee discovered that true power isn't about strength at all. Hong Kong, 1967. A city caught between two worlds, ancient traditions and modern ambitions. In this powder keg of cultural collision, one man had become a living legend. His name was Bruce Lee, 26 years old, 5 feet 7 inches, 135 pounds of pure kinetic energy. By 1967, Bruce had already revolutionized martial arts. He'd challenged the ancient traditions, broken the sacred rules about teaching non-Chinese students, created his own fighting philosophy called Jeet Kune Do. But success had come with a price. Bruce Lee was beginning to believe his own mythology. He'd defeated challenge fighter after challenge fighter. Wong Jack Man in San Francisco. Countless others who dared to test his system. In the training halls of Hong Kong, whispers followed wherever Bruce walked. Some called it respect. Others called it fear. But in the shadowy corners of the traditional martial arts community, there was something else brewing. Because in Chinese martial arts, there has always been an understanding. True masters never advertise. August 15th, 1967. Po Lin Temple. Bruce Lee had come here not for spiritual guidance, but for a photo shoot. Hollywood was calling. Producers wanted authentic backdrop shots for his upcoming American projects. The temple, with its ancient stones and mystical atmosphere, was perfect. But as Bruce moved through his routine, the lightning kicks, the explosive punches, he began to notice something unusual. In the far corner of the courtyard, barely visible in the morning shadows, sat an elderly man. A beggar. Or so it seemed. Bruce noticed the man's breathing first. Perfect rhythm. 4 counts in, hold for 4, 4 counts out. This wasn't random vagrant seeking shelter. This was someone who understood qi, life force, the thing that separates a martial artist from a fighter. What happened next would depend entirely on which version of the story you believe. According to eyewitness accounts, and there were exactly 3 people present besides Bruce and the old man, the encounter began with a single word. Heavy. The old man had spoken without opening his eyes. His voice was barely above a whisper, but in the morning stillness, it carried with perfect clarity. "Excuse me?" Bruce replied, his tone carrying the edge of someone unaccustomed to interruption. "Your movements," the old man said, rising slowly to his feet. "They carry the weight of your accomplishments, heavy with expectation, burdened by reputation." Bruce Lee's reaction was immediate. His shoulders squared. His stance shifted to the classic JKD ready position. "And you are?" Bruce asked, his voice now carrying the controlled tension of a predator assessing potential threat. Nobody, the beggar replied, which is why I can see what you cannot. What happened next violated every code of martial arts etiquette Bruce Lee had ever learned. The beggar issued a challenge, but not in the traditional way. No formal bowing, no statements of intent, no acknowledgement of lineage or style. Instead, he simply said, "Show me your famous speed." For Bruce Lee, speed was everything. It was his signature, his advantage. In an era where martial artists were often stocky, powerful men, Bruce had revolutionized fighting by making velocity the primary weapon. His straight lead punch could cover the distance from his hip to an opponent's face in 0.05 seconds. Faster than the human eye could track. Faster than most people could even begin to react. Against a shuffling old man, it would be no contest. And then Bruce exploded forward. From Bruce Lee's perspective, what happened next was impossible. The punch was perfect. Textbook JKD direct line from his center line to the target. No wasted motion. Maximum efficiency. But as Bruce's fist traveled those crucial inches toward impact, the old man wasn't there anymore. Not sideways, not backward. He hadn't ducked or weaved or parried. He had moved exactly enough to make Bruce's perfect technique completely ineffective. And somehow, Bruce hadn't seen it happen. Bruce spun into a hook kick, his most devastating technique. The kick that had dropped grown men with a single impact. Again, the old man moved. Not dramatically, not with obvious technique. He simply wasn't where Bruce expected him to be. And then the old man did something that would haunt Bruce Lee for the rest of his life. He placed his open palm against Bruce's chest and pushed. In that moment, Bruce Lee experienced something no opponent had ever managed to do to him. Complete loss of balance, not from impact, not from superior force, from the simple redirection of his own energy against himself. For 10 seconds, the temple courtyard was absolutely silent. The old man looked down at Bruce with something that wasn't triumph or superiority. It was compassion. "Your speed is extraordinary," the old man said as Bruce accepted the help to stand. "But speed without wisdom becomes its own trap." "You move like lightning," the beggar continued, "but lightning always follows the same path to ground. Predictable. Inevitable. True martial art is not about moving fast. It's about being where your opponent's strength cannot reach you." What Bruce Lee learned in the next hour would fundamentally alter his entire approach to martial arts. The old man, it turned out, was Master Chen Wei-ming, once a disciple of the legendary Yang Chengfu, the man who had codified modern Tai Chi. But Chen had been expelled from the traditional community 20 years earlier for the same crime that Bruce was now committing: teaching outsiders, breaking the ancient codes, sharing sacred knowledge with those not born to it. "I have spent 20 years," Chen explained, "learning to unlearn everything I thought I knew about fighting. Strength creates resistance. Speed creates patterns. Aggression creates openings for counterattack. But emptiness. Chen paused, his hands moving in the slow, flowing patterns of internal martial arts. Emptiness can absorb anything. For the first time in his adult life, Bruce Lee asked someone to teach him. What Chen taught him wasn't new techniques or secret moves. It was the understanding that true martial arts mastery isn't about perfecting your own capabilities. It's about understanding your opponent so completely that you can make them defeat themselves. By late afternoon, Bruce Lee was practicing movements he had never seen before. Not the external, visible techniques of traditional Tai Chi, but the internal mechanics. The understanding of how force travels through the body, how balance can be disrupted not by impact, but by subtle redirection. Your Jeet Kune Do, Chen observed, seeks to eliminate what is useless. This is wise. But have you considered what happens when you eliminate yourself from the conflict entirely? This was Wu Wei, the art of accomplishing through not doing, the ultimate expression of Taoist philosophy applied to combat. In his training notes from that day, notes that wouldn't be discovered until after his death, Bruce wrote, "Today I learned that I have been using a hammer when the situation called for water. Speed and power are tools, but wisdom is knowing when not to use tools at all." As evening approached, Chen began to gather his simple possessions. "Where will you go?" Bruce asked. "Nowhere," Chen replied. "I am already where I need to be." Bruce never saw him again. If you watch Bruce Lee's movies after 1967, you can see the change. In his earlier films, Bruce fights like a force of nature, direct, overwhelming, unstoppable. But in his later work, Enter the Dragon, Way of the Dragon, something is different. He doesn't just overpower his opponents, he makes them overpower themselves. In the famous nunchaku scene with Chuck Norris, watch carefully. Bruce doesn't defeat Chuck through superior speed or strength. He defeats him by occupying the exact space where Chuck's techniques can't reach him. This wasn't just movie choreography. This was the application of what Bruce learned from a beggar in a temple courtyard. And in that mirror room scene, arguably the most famous martial arts sequence ever filmed, Bruce isn't fighting his opponent. He's fighting the opponent's expectations of where he should be. Here's where the story gets truly mysterious. In 2019, a team of martial arts historians attempted to verify the story of Bruce Lee's encounter with Chen Wei-ming. They found no record of Chen Wei-ming ever existing, no birth records, no training lineage, no documentation with any traditional Tai Chi school. The photographers who witnessed the encounter confirmed the events. But when pressed for details about the old man himself, "I remember the encounter clearly, but the old man, it's strange. I can remember what he did, but I can't quite remember what he looked like." Everyone remembered the lesson. No one could remember the teacher. Which leads to a question that has fascinated Bruce Lee scholars for decades. Did Bruce Lee encounter a real master who chose to live in anonymity? Or did he experience something else entirely? A manifestation of his own need to learn humility? A projection of his unconscious understanding that his path required transformation? In Taoist philosophy, the greatest teachers appear exactly when the student is ready to learn, and they disappear the moment the lesson is complete. Whether Chen Wei-ming was a man or a moment, a teacher or a teaching, the encounter changed everything. Today's neuroscience is beginning to understand what ancient masters intuited. Dr. Sarah Lazar at Massachusetts General Hospital has been studying the brains of martial arts masters using fMRI technology. What we see in advanced practitioners is something remarkable. During moments of peak performance, large areas of the prefrontal cortex actually quiet down. This is called transient hypofrontality. The analytical, overthinking part of the brain temporarily goes offline. The result? Instead of thinking about what to do, the body simply responds to what is actually happening. This is what Chen taught Bruce in the temple courtyard. Not new techniques, but a new relationship with his own consciousness. Bruce's later training notes show his understanding of this principle. The consciousness of self is the greatest opponent. When there is no conscious effort to be fast, speed happens naturally. Modern sports psychology now has a term for this: witness consciousness. The ability to observe your own performance without interfering with it. It's like watching yourself perform perfectly, but you're not controlling it. You're just letting it happen. This is the scientific validation of what Taoists have taught for 3,000 years. True mastery isn't about perfecting control. It's about perfecting the ability to let go of control at precisely the right moment. Bruce Lee died 6 years after his encounter at the temple. But in those 6 years, he had revolutionized not just martial arts, but our entire understanding of human physical potential. Among his personal effects, investigators found a single piece of paper tucked inside his copy of the Tao Te Ching. It contained just one sentence, written in Bruce's distinctive handwriting. The master has failed 1,000 times more than the beginner has even tried. This was Chen's final lesson, understood only after years of practice. That true mastery requires the courage to be a beginner over and over again. Today, in martial arts schools around the world, Bruce Lee's philosophy lives on, not as a rigid system, but as an approach to learning. The willingness to have everything you think you know challenged by someone you least expect. The understanding that the greatest teachers often come disguised as the least impressive opponents. So the next time someone tells you about martial arts mastery, remember this: the greatest strength is knowing when not to use strength. The fastest technique is arriving where your opponent cannot touch you. And sometimes, the most important victory is the one where you discover you were fighting the wrong battle entirely. The beggar who broke Bruce Lee taught him the ultimate lesson. True power isn't about what you can do to others. It's about what you can keep others from doing to you, including yourself. The teacher you need will appear exactly when you're ready to learn. The question isn't whether Chen Wei-ming was real. The question is, are you ready to meet your own beggar in the temple?